All right, let's quick review how to take your black and white images and get them ready to start doing some coloring. I'm going to open up the one that I demoed previously, which is this little itty bitty, rather too small sketch of falling water. And we need to work with a bigger image for this project. So we're going to go to File, New, or Command N. There's the shortcut, and head to our Print Presets. And we said this one's going to be 11 by 17. And since my image is a wide one rather than a tall one, a landscape one, we'll go with that wider orientation there. And that opens up this guy. Now, there are about 3 different ways to get this black and white imagery into my new, hopefully almost properly set up 11 by 17 document. So the easiest of these is to just head on over to your Finder and drag it straight into that document. So you can see it's on its own layer. It's got a little bounding box which indicates that this is currently what's called a smart object, which means it's still scalable, still kind of referring back to its original stuff. And I'm holding down the Shift key as I drag one of the corners there to scale it up to my full size. We talked about C, the crop tool, to crop that down to its final size there. So that's one way. I'm going to Option Command Z back to show you the next way, which would be to actually open it using the Finder File Open. And classically, you can select all with a Command A, copy it to the clipboard with a Command C, and then Command V to paste it into our document. Now I'm using Command T here to transform that, holding down the Shift key again so that it maintains its aspect ratio. You don't want to stretch it in one direction or the other. Let me show you what that looks like if I don't. So here I just can be any width, which you know, lower ceilings might have been a plan for Frank, but you know, I want to try and keep it to the artist's intentions there. So pop it up in the corner, click and drag, something like that. That gets us there too. So that's a copy and paste method. Let's get rid of that and do one more trick, which would be to actually undock it by tearing that tab off. This is kind of the worst of this, but if you have a group, layered group of things to do, this is kind of the only way to do it, short of maybe copying it or duplicating it. Now that I've got these loose, I can, with the Move tool, click and drag it straight on in. I held the Shift key down as I did so, and that allowed it to center it, if that's a factor. It wasn't really a factor for this one, but now that's scaled up, ready to go. I'm going to close that guy. We're done with him and pop him over here. Okay, so that's one level of prep for this image. I'm going to crop it down to my final size there. As long as one of them is the larger paper dimensions, we're good. We're going to print that with some white on either side anyway. Okay, next we need to make sure that we are in the right color mode. We could have set this up initially when we make our document by choosing, we were here print, and we were 11 by 17, and we had RGB color selected. We could have gone CMYK here, but we forgot to. I forgot to. So what we'll do instead is to change it now. Now's a fine time to do it. We can go to Mode, that's under Image, Mode, and change the color mode here from RGB to CMYK. It will ask us if we want to flatten it. You know, if we accidentally flattened it, it's okay. We can recover that, but generally we would say no to that. Let me show you how we fix that if that's the case. Or if you happen to have an original that's already the right size, you can just double click on it, opens it up, and turns it into an editable layer instead of the flattened background layer. And now as I start to make new layers using this new layer button here, I can start setting this up for, let's say, my original line art at the top, and say my color. I'm not really sure what the initial color will be. Let's replicate what we did, which would be a color wash. There we go. Okay. So this is a good place for us to be able to set up the initial coloring setup. Okay, so right now if I were to fill that background color, I'm not going to see it through this top layer, which is currently opaque and white. I'll need to set that topmost layer while it's selected, going to this drop down to one of these color modes. And we'll go into a lot of depth on these guys later, but for now, suffice to say, that the one we want to use is multiply. And when we select that, we're able to see our color wash through there, regardless of what color we stick back there. So if we fill that with blue, we've got a blue, basic blue world. Okay, so I just did a fill there. Over here are our color swatches. We've got the foreground color and the background color. And normally by default, those are black and white. I just hit D, which brings us back to that black and white default. If you ever need to get just black and white drawing, just hit D and those swatches will return. Now, if I single click on the top one, I can start to pick an initial color. So maybe I'm just gonna put in a nice antique pale color here as my initial color wash. And this is gonna be a color that's gonna be present in the entire image.